Imagine you are sailing toward the richest city on Earth. The year is 218 BC. You have been at sea for 11 days, crossing from Syracuse on a merchant galley heavy with Sicilian grain, and for most of the journey, the horizon has been empty, just the flat blue of the Mediterranean and the long white edge of the wake behind you. And then, on the 12th morning, something begins to rise from the water. Not a coastline, a city that climbs out of the sea in tiers, layer on layer, cream-colored stone and red terracotta roofs stacked up a green hillside until they seem to punch at the sky. At the top, a citadel. Below it, districts so dense with houses that the streets vanish. Below those, harbors. Two of them. One rectangular, crowded with the masts of a forest of merchant ships. The other perfectly, impossibly circular, ringed by a wall so smooth it looks like it was poured. This is Carthage. Not the ruin. Not the Roman victim. Not the cautionary tale that the poets of Italy will spend the next 6 centuries warning their children about. This is the real, functioning, living city at the absolute peak of its power. Home to perhaps 500,000 people. Mistress of the Western Mediterranean. The largest concentration of wealth in the known world. Your ship is turning now, guided by a harbor pilot in a small skiff, and ahead of you, the entrance to the merchant port opens, a channel 70 feet wide, 2 massive stone towers flanking it, and running between those towers, lying slack on the seabed but capable of being hauled tight in minutes, an iron chain thick enough to stop a warship. What you are about to see is an AI reconstruction of this city, built from the foundations that still lie under modern Tunis, from the Greek and Roman writers who saw it before it burned, and from the scraps of Carthaginian writing that survived the most thorough act of cultural erasure in ancient history. This is the city that invented the corporation, the stock trade, and the naval base. And in 218 BC, it is about to pick a fight it cannot win. The first thing any visitor to Carthage encounters is the harbor, and the harbor is a statement. Most ports in the ancient world are simply beaches, a curve of sheltered coast where ships are dragged up onto sand at night and pushed back into the water in the morning. Even the great Greek harbors of Syracuse and Athens are natural bays with a few breakwaters thrown across them. Carthage does not have a harbor. Carthage has a machine. The outer basin, the one your merchant galley is now gliding into, is rectangular, roughly 1,500 feet long and 1,200 wide. It was dug out of the earth by human hands, lined with stone, connected to the sea by that single narrow channel with its chain. Along every edge, stone quays rise out of the water, and behind the quays, brick warehouses stretch away in rows, packed with Spanish silver, British tin, Egyptian grain, Gallic slaves, Numidian ivory, Sardinian wine, and the famous Tyrian purple dye that only Carthage can still produce in quantity. This dye is worth more per ounce than silver. Ships come here from every coast of the known world to buy it. Cranes made of timber and rope swing cargo nets into warehouses. Scribes in linen robes record every crate, every jar, every ingot on wax tablets that will later be copied onto papyrus and filed in the Senate archive. Foremen shout in 6 languages. Punic, the local dialect of Phoenician, is the language of business. But you hear Greek, Libyan, Iberian, Gallic, Latin, and the rolling Aramaic of the Eastern trade. But the rectangular harbor is only the public face. At the far end, visible through a second gated channel, is something no other city in the world possesses: a circular military harbor, perfectly round, roughly 1,000 feet across, and completely hidden from the sea. This is the Kothon. The word comes from a Greek term for a drinking cup because that is what its shape resembles. It is the beating heart of the Carthaginian navy and the most sophisticated piece of military engineering on Earth. Around the entire circumference of the circle, built directly into the stone ring that encloses it, are 220 covered ship sheds. Each one is a roofed stone bay, sloping down into the water, long enough to accommodate a full quinquereme, the five-banked warship that is the main battleship of the age. Above each bay is a second-story warehouse holding that ship's oars, sails, cordage, and bronze ram. In front of each bay stand two Ionic columns in the Greek style, so that seen together the ring of 220 sheds creates the appearance of a continuous marble colonnade surrounding the water. In the center of the circular harbor sits an island. On the island stands the Admiral's Tower, the highest building in this part of the city. From the top of that tower, the Navarch, the commander of the Carthaginian fleet, can see every ship in both harbors, every ship approaching from the sea, and, through a signal system of flags and horns, can mobilize an entire war fleet in a matter of hours. The whole structure is designed to be invisible. From outside the city walls, nobody on the open sea can see what is inside the Kothon. Spies cannot count the ships. Enemy admirals cannot estimate the fleet size. The Romans, who have been watching Carthage obsessively for 50 years, still do not know exactly how many warships are hidden behind these walls. It is the ancient world's first strategic military base. When the historian Appian describes this harbor centuries later, Romans will accuse him of exaggeration. He is not. Modern archaeology has traced the foundations. The numbers are real. The man whose family built this city into what you are now seeing was not a king. He was a general, and he has been dead for 10 years. His name was Hamilcar Byrsa. His presence is everywhere. In 218 BC, Hamilcar Byrsa has been dead for roughly 11 years, drowned while campaigning in Spain. But make no mistake, this is still his Carthage. And right now, as you step off the gangway onto the stone quay, his eldest son is 3,000 miles from here, leading an army of 50,000 men and 37 war elephants through the southern Gaul toward the Alps. His name is Hannibal. And this year, he will march those elephants over mountains that the Romans believed could not be crossed, descend onto the plains of Italy, and begin the war that will define the rest of the ancient world. The Barcids did not found Carthage. The city is over 500 years old by the time Hamilcar was born. According to legend, it was established in 814 BC by Queen Elissa, better known to the Romans as Dido, a Tyrian princess fleeing her murderous brother. She landed on this promontory and struck a famously clever deal with the local Berber chieftain for as much land as a single ox hide could enclose, then cut the hide into thin strips long enough to encircle the entire hilltop rising in front of you. That hilltop is the Byrsa. The name is Greek. It means ox hide. The Carthaginians themselves called their city Carthage, New Town. For 5 centuries, Carthage grew, inheriting the maritime empire of its mother city Tyre, especially after Alexander the Great burned Tyre to the ground in 332 BC, and refugees fled west with their wealth. Then, in 264 BC, Rome picked a fight over a minor crisis in Sicily. The First Punic War lasted 23 years. Carthage lost. She lost Sicily, lost her naval supremacy, and took on an indemnity that crippled her for decades. Hamilcar Byrsa was the one Carthaginian general who never lost a battle in that war. When the peace was signed over his objections, he took his armies to Spain and began building a new empire in the silver mines and coastal cities. He trained his 3 sons in the camp like Spartan princes, and according to the story Hannibal would later tell, he made the 9-year-old boy swear an oath on a blood-spattered altar to Baal Hammon that as long as he lived, he would be an enemy of Rome. That oath is the reason Hannibal is not in the city today to see you arrive. He is in the foothills of the Pyrenees, and he is walking toward Italy. The wealth from the Spanish silver mines flowed back to Carthage. You can see where it went. Every major structure in this city, the expansion of the Kothon, the extension of the walls, the gleaming new temples on the Byrsa, the paved inland roads, was either built or rebuilt in the last 4 decades of the Barcid family's rise. Their coins bear the faces of Melqart and the war elephant. Their names are chiseled into dedications all over the precinct. The family's ego was enormous. So was their talent. The city they have left behind is right now, in 218 BC, the richest thing humans have ever built. To enter Carthage properly, you walk the road from the harbor to the Byrsa, and the walk is designed to impress. The road surface is paved in fitted basalt blocks, wide enough for 2 ox carts to pass each other. On either side rise the townhouses of the wealthy merchant class, and these are unlike anything you have seen in a Greek or Italian city. They are 6 stories tall. 6-story buildings in 218 BC, stacked up narrow streets built of mortared rubble and faced in stucco that has been painted in deep reds and ochres. Each house is built around a central courtyard open to the sky. At the bottom of that courtyard is a cistern, carved into the bedrock, that collects rainwater through ceramic pipes running down from the rooftop. The upper floors contain sleeping quarters. The middle floors contain living rooms and dining halls with floor mosaics. The ground floor, often, is a shop or a workshop fronting the street. No city in the Mediterranean builds like this. Rome in 218 BC is still a collection of 1- and 2-story homes with the occasional wooden apartment block. Athens never built higher than 3 stories. The Carthaginians invented the urban high-rise because the hilltop real estate inside the city walls is too valuable to sprawl out, and because they are the most sophisticated builders in cement and rubble masonry west of Alexandria. Beneath the streets runs a drainage system. Stone channels carry wastewater away from each cistern block and out of the city. It is not modern plumbing, but it is better than anything the Romans will have for another 200 years. The street climbs, the crowds thicken. You pass coppersmiths, dye houses where enormous vats of shellfish mucus slowly oxidize into the famous Tyrian purple, scribes sitting with their reed pens and stacks of papyrus offering to write letters for the illiterate, butchers, bakers, silk merchants from the Far East, whose goods have been passed through a dozen intermediaries to reach this market, and everywhere, the smell of grilled fish and the clatter of the small leaden coins called shekels changing hands. At the top of the climb, the street opens into the agora, the main public square. To the right, the council house where the Aedirum, the Senate of 300 wealthy men, meets to make policy and declare wars. To the left, the small courts where magistrates called suffetes hear commercial disputes. Straight ahead, the steps climbing to the sacred precinct of the Byrsa itself. On an ordinary day, walking this road does something to you. The scale, the noise, the sheer variety of faces. You realize you are standing in a city that has traded with India and with Britain in the same week. It is designed to make you feel that you are at the center of the world. It works. At the center of Carthage, visible from every point in the city and from miles out to sea, rises the sacred hill, the Byrsa. The Byrsa is not large by natural standards, only about 190 feet above sea level, but everything about it has been shaped by human hands over 5 centuries into a religious citadel. At the summit stands the temple of Eshmun, the healing god, patron of physicians and the original deity of the hilltop. The building is built in the Greco-Phoenician style, a stone portico of fluted columns around a closed sanctuary. But its roof tiles are painted in deep Carthaginian blue, and its interior is lit by bronze oil lamps that hang from chains. Priests with shaved heads and pure linen robes move in and out of the sanctuary all day, making offerings of incense, wine, and small terracotta figurines left by the faithful. Around the Eshmun temple, smaller shrines circle the summit. A shrine to Melqart, the Tyrian Heracles, patron of sailors and kings. A shrine to Resheph, the god of plague and war. A shrine to the anonymous Baals, the many lords of the local Punic countryside. But the 2 most important deities of Carthage are worshipped further down the slope, in the precinct where the Barcid family has spent the most money. The first is Baal Hammon, lord of the altars of incense, king of the Carthaginian gods. He is depicted as a bearded older man with the curling horns of a ram, seated on a throne, his hands raised in blessing. His temple on the south flank of the Byrsa is the richest in the city. Gold plates line the walls of the inner sanctuary. A statue of the god, twice life-size, is fed, clothed, and anointed daily by his priests. The second is Tanit, Hannibal, the face of Baal. Tanit is a goddess of fertility, of motherhood, and of the moon. Her symbol is a stylized female figure, a triangle topped by a circle, 2 horizontal arms outstretched. You see this symbol everywhere in Carthage, carved onto the wooden doors of houses, painted on the sides of ships, stamped onto the bottom of clay lamps. She is the patron of the city. When Carthaginian women pray for children, they pray to Tanit. And in the low ground just outside the Byrsa sanctuary, in a walled open-air enclosure called the Tophet, the priests of Tanit and Baal Hammon perform the most controversial ritual in the ancient Mediterranean. The Tophet is a field of stone stelae, thousands of them, each one marking the burial of a small clay urn. Inside each urn are the cremated bones of an infant, and sometimes the bones of a lamb or a young goat. The Greek and Roman writers who visited Carthage and later destroyed it claimed these were the remains of living children sacrificed by their own parents in times of crisis, burned on the bronze arms of Baal Hammon while drums played loud enough to drown out the screams. Modern archaeologists have argued about this for over a century. Some believe the Tophet is simply a cemetery for infants who died naturally, deeply common in an era of high infant mortality. Others, pointing to the age distribution of the remains and the specific dedicatory inscriptions on the stelae, believe the sacrifices were real, probably only by the elite, and probably in moments of existential threat. What nobody disputes is that the Tophet exists, that it contains the cremated remains of tens of thousands of infants, and that whatever those children were, they were dedicated by their families to the two gods who watched over the city. The Carthaginians believe, literally, that the survival of their city is secured by the favor of Tanit and Baal Hammon, and nothing binds a community to its gods more tightly than a sacrifice no one is willing to speak about aloud. The city does not end at the walls. In 218 BC, the built-up area of Carthage spreads far beyond the fortified core, down the hillside toward the plain, and along the two narrow strips of land, the isthmus, that connect the promontory to the mainland. And along that isthmus, facing west toward the African interior, from which any serious land invasion would have to come, stands the most formidable defensive wall in the ancient Mediterranean. The outer walls of Carthage stretch for 23 miles around the whole peninsula. Most of that length runs along the coast, where the sea itself is the first line of defense, and the walls are modest stone curtains. But on the isthmus, across the 3-mile stretch of flat land where an enemy army could actually deploy, the walls become monstrous. 3 parallel lines of fortification, the outer wall, 13 meters tall and 8 meters thick, a deep dry moat in front of it, behind it, a second wall, behind that, a third, with towers every 60 feet along its entire length. Between the walls, barracks and stables are built directly into the masonry. 300 war elephants can be stabled inside the walls themselves, 4,000 horses, 20,000 infantry. The wall is not just a defense, it is a city within a city, capable of holding and supplying an army for months. The Greeks who wrote about these walls called them unscalable. The Romans studied them for decades before they dared try. In the 3 Punic Wars, the walls will be besieged 3 times. Twice they will hold. The third time, when they finally fail, they will not be breached. They will be bypassed. But in 218 BC, they have never failed. When the Romans finally take the city and burn its libraries, the only book they will preserve from the entire Carthaginian literary canon will be a 28-volume treatise on scientific agriculture, written by a retired general named Mago. That book will be translated into Latin and Greek, and Mediterranean farming will use its methods for the next 1,000 years. Everything else, the histories, the religious texts, the legal codes, the letters of Hannibal, the annals of the Suffets, will be burned. What we know about Carthage, we know almost entirely from its enemies. Beyond the walls lies the countryside that feeds the city. The Cap Bon Peninsula, stretching east toward Sicily, and the Magerda Valley, stretching west into the African interior, are the agricultural engine of the Carthaginian Empire. Here are the great estates owned by the same senatorial families whose townhouses climb the Byrsa. They are worked by a mixed labor force of free Libyan tenants, debt-bonded Punic peasants, and outright chattel slaves captured in war. They produce wheat, olives, wine, figs, almonds, pomegranates, and dates in quantities that feed the city and fill the cargo holds heading to Spain, Sardinia, and the colonies. Mago's agricultural treatise describes in detail how to press olives, how to graft fruit trees, how to breed cattle, how to rotate crops. Carthaginian agriculture in 218 BC is more advanced than anything in Europe. A single Punic olive press could produce as much oil in a day as a medieval European press could produce in a week. Water management is the silent miracle. The Carthaginian countryside is not naturally wet. It receives perhaps 20 inches of rain a year, most of it in winter, and the summers are brutal. To make agriculture possible at scale, Carthaginian engineers built a network of cisterns and irrigation channels covering hundreds of square miles. The city itself has no major river. Every house collects rainwater from its rooftop into its basement cistern. The enormous La Malga cisterns are being dug right now, in this era, as the population outgrows its supply. The Carthaginians understand what the Romans will spend centuries learning. A city's wealth ultimately depends on its water. You can build the most beautiful temple in the Mediterranean, but if the cisterns go dry in August, the temple will be empty by September. Carthage in 218 BC is one of the most cosmopolitan places on Earth. The population is a mixture of native Punic Carthaginians, Libyan Berbers from the countryside, Phoenician immigrants whose families fled Tyre 3 generations ago, Greek craftsmen drawn by commissions, Sardinian and Iberian traders, Numidian cavalry auxiliaries quartered in the outer districts, Egyptian priests running a small temple near the harbor, and a growing community of Italian merchants whose loyalty will be very complicated once the war begins. They speak a dozen languages. Punic, written in a flowing alphabet descended from the old Phoenician script, remains the language of business and religion. Greek is the language of scholarship, and educated Carthaginians read Plato and Thucydides in the original. Libyan is spoken in the poorer districts. Society is divided into clear classes. At the top, the merchant aristocracy, the 300 senators, and the great trading families. In the middle, free Punic citizens, shopkeepers, skilled craftsmen, minor officials. Below them, Libyan tenant farmers and urban laborers. At the bottom, the slaves. Slavery in Carthage is not what you might expect. Many slaves are household servants treated almost as family. Many are war captives condemned to grinding labor in the Spanish silver mines, where life expectancy is counted in months. Some are debt slaves, sold by their families to clear accounts, and their slavery is often temporary. Women in Carthage have more legal standing than their Greek or Roman counterparts will enjoy for centuries. A Punic woman can inherit property, run a business, serve as a priestess, and file for divorce. Queen Elissa, the founder herself, is honored as a ruler and strategist, not just a consort. Inscriptions in the Tophet frequently name women as the dedicators of offerings in their own right. The daily diet revolves around bread, olives, fish, and wine. Wine is everywhere, and unlike in Greece, it is often drunk undiluted. The fish, brought in fresh every morning, is salted, smoked, or turned into a fermented paste called garum, shipped in amphorae to every corner of the Mediterranean. A wealthy household in 218 BC might dine on roast goat stuffed with pomegranate, barley bread dipped in olive oil, preserved figs, and a heavy Iberian red imported through the family's own ships. Below the Polish is the cash. Carthage is a city built on money, and it thinks about money in ways no other ancient civilization has attempted. The Senate issues bonds to finance naval expansions. Large trading ventures are funded by joint partnerships with dozens of investors, the earliest recognizable ancestors of the corporation. Insurance contracts exist to protect cargoes against shipwreck. Currency from a dozen mints circulates freely. In 218 BC, Carthage feels permanent. It feels like the center of the world because it is. The harbors are full. The temples are wealthy. The walls are unbreachable. The empire stretches from the gates of Egypt to the Atlantic coast, and Hannibal, the brilliant young general who has inherited his father's hatred of Rome, is marching over the Alps to finish what Hamilcar started. It will not work. The Second Punic War will be the most terrifying conflict the Mediterranean has ever seen. Hannibal will destroy Roman army after Roman army. At Cannae, in 216 BC, he will kill more Roman citizens in a single afternoon than will die on any other single day in Roman history until the 20th century. He will occupy southern Italy for 15 years. He will come within a day's march of the walls of Rome itself. And he will still lose. Because while Hannibal is winning battles in Italy, the Romans are quietly reinventing themselves as a naval power, cutting his supply lines, attacking Spain, and finally, in 204 BC, landing an army in Africa under a young general named Scipio. In 202 BC at the Battle of Zama, within sight of the walls of Carthage, Scipio will defeat Hannibal in the field. The indemnity imposed on Carthage will be crushing. The navy will be reduced to 10 ships. Spain will be lost forever. But Carthage will not die. Not yet. For the next 50 years, stripped of empire but allowed to trade, the city will reinvent itself as a purely commercial power. The Kothon will remain. The Byrsa will remain. The wealth, incredibly, will return. By 150 BC, Carthage is once again paying down its indemnity early, and the more paranoid senators in Rome, led by the old man Cato, are ending every speech they give on any subject with the same 4 words: Carthago delenda est. Carthage must be destroyed. In 149 BC, Rome finds a pretext. The Third Punic War is not really a war, it is a demolition. A Roman army lands in Africa, besieges the city for 3 years, and in the spring of 146 BC, a young general named Scipio Aemilianus breaks through the walls, fights his way through the streets, house by house, and corners the last defenders in the temple of Eshmun on the summit of the Byrsa, the hill where Elissa had stretched her ox hide 700 years before. When the last defenders surrender, the Roman Senate has already issued its order. The city is burned. For 17 days, the fires do not go out. The 50,000 survivors are sold into slavery. The walls are pulled down. The harbors are filled in. The library is burned, every book but Mago's agriculture. Scipio Aemilianus, standing on the burning ruins, is said to have wept and quoted the Iliad under his breath, and to have said to his tutor Polybius, "This is a glorious moment, and yet I am seized by the fear that someday someone will give the same order about my own city." He was right. A century later, Julius Caesar will order Carthage rebuilt as a Roman colony. Within another century, it will be the second largest city in the Western Roman Empire, a center of early Christianity, the home of St. Augustine. It will be sacked by Vandals in 439 AD, retaken by Byzantines, and finally destroyed for the last time by Arab armies in 698, who will carry its stones away to build the new Arab capital of Tunis, just up the coast. Today, what remains is a wealthy suburb of modern Tunis. The circular outline of the Kothon is still visible, now a small lagoon filled with fishing boats. The foundations of the Byrsa houses, preserved by the ash of the Roman burning, have been excavated. The Tophet still holds its tens of thousands of urns. The carved stelae are scattered across museums in Tunis, Paris, and London. But the Carthaginians gave us things that have outlasted every empire that came after them. The joint stock trading venture, the naval dockyard, the maritime insurance contract, the alphabet that the Phoenicians brought west, and that, through Greek and Latin, became the script you are reading right now. Every time you sign a business contract, every time an insurance company pays out a lost cargo, every time a navy refits a warship in a dry dock, you are using Carthaginian inventions. They built a city that Rome could burn but could not forget.